visit shantimission.org. Together we can anchor peace. Mystery School Ancient Wisdom for Everyday Life is your practical and inspiring gateway to spiritual awakening. Join me, Shakti Durga, and Dr. Pat every first and third Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific.
Welcome to Mindful Leadership, Transforming Lives, with your host, Singh. This is where leadership meets purpose, presence, and passion. In today's fast-paced, high-pressure world, we face a leadership crisis. Too often, teams are led by managers who lack empathy, clarity, and vision, leaving individuals uninspired, disconnected, and undervalued. But it doesn't have to be this way. Great leadership isn't born, it's built. The end game, empower your leadership, inspire the world. Every week, join me, your host Singh, as we tackle the gaps in leadership and life coaching head-on, learning how mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and compassion can redefine success. This isn't just another podcast. It's a mission to fill the void left by ineffective leadership. And it's not just about leadership in business. Life coaching for leaders and new executives is at the heart of this journey. Ready to rise above the noise and lead with clarity, purpose, and impact? Join a global movement dedicated to reshaping the future of leadership one mindful moment at a time. Let's begin.
Welcome back to the Mindful Leadership Podcast on Transformation Network. This is the show where we turn stress into strategy, overthinking into clear thinking, and overwhelm into momentum. I'm your host, Singh. And I'm going to start today with a hard truth. So I hope you're ready. So here it is. Most of what you have been told about balance is a lie. Not a small lie, a big one. The kind that sells a lot of books and helps almost nobody. You know the picture, the calm leader, the tidy desk, equal time for work, rest, family, and dreams, all stacked on perfect little scale. I've looked for that leader for years. I have never found him. And I bet you haven't either. So today, we burn that picture down and we build something that actually holds when your week catches fire. So let me tell you about a leader I worked with about 2 years ago. I call her the Snee. She ran product at a fast growing company, 41-year-old, three people reporting to her, six big bets on her plate, and two of them on fire every single week. So in our first session, she said something I have never forgotten. She looked at me and said, Singh, everyone keeps telling to find a balance. But every time I try, it just feels like I'm picking the very thing I'm going to fail at this week. That is not balance. That is a mess with a yoga mat next to it. Now, I have thought about that line for 2 years because she was right. And she was naming the thing almost every leader I meet feels but never says out loud. The soft, dreamy balance from the magazines, well, it does not exist in the room. Not in the room you walk into on a Monday morning. What exists is pull, real pull from your team, from the board, from the customer, from the family you just left at 6:45 a.m. to make the 8 o'clock meeting. So here is what I want you to hear. The leaders who stay standing under that pull did not find any magic, but they built a small set of habits, five of them to be specific. Habits that keep them upright when the pull comes down from five directions at once. That is what I'm going to give you today. Not a dreamy kind of balance, the real kind. The kind that holds when the week gets ugly. And we call it balance, right? So the full word names the goal: building, alignment, leadership, awareness, collaboration, ethically. That's balance. But the work is five moves. Five letter you actually do: breath, assess, link, act, and nurture. Those five are the practice. Now, look at the last two letters, C and E, collaboration, ethically. Those are not extra. Those are the test. Without them, these five moves are just taking care of you. With them, they become how your whole team stays standing together. Hold on to that. We come back to it at the end. So, before the five moves, let me kill the myth for good. The myth: the most balanced leaders I have ever met do not look balanced. They look strong. They look load bearing. There is a difference. A balanced leader, the magazine kind, right, looks calm all the time. Same face every day. Equal time for everything. I'm telling you straight, that leader is a fantasy sold in airport bookstores. I have read about those leaders. I had never shaken their hand. The real leader I work with do not give equal time to everything. Should not. Some weeks, the launch eats the calendar and the family dinner moves to Sunday. Some weeks, a parent gets sick and the big offside gets pushed. They are not balanced like statue. They are balanced like a person riding a bike. And that is the whole secret. Think about riding a bike. You're never truly still. You're always making tiny moves. A little left, a little right, forward, back. Those tiny moves are what keep you up. If you try to sit perfectly still on a bike, you would fall over. Leading is the same way. Balance is not a still point. Balance is a steady stream of small fixes. I work with a founder. I call him Dave. Once he told me, saying, every time someone tells me to find balance, I want to ask them, balance between what and what? If you cannot name the two ends of the rope, you're balancing anything? You're not. You're just standing in the wind, hoping you don't fall. And he was absolutely right. So let me give you the five fixes that keep your bike upright when the road gets rough. Here we go. So the first move: breathe and begin. It sounds soft, but it is the most powerful one of all. So here's the problem: most weeks do not begin, they just keep going. You stop Friday at 6, you spend the weekend half thinking about Tuesday board prep. By Monday morning, you're already mid fight inside your own head before you walk in the door. So a week with no starting line has no shape. A week with no shape lets the loud stuff beat the important stuff every time. So put a starting line on your week: 10 minutes, even three, long enough to answer three simple questions before anyone asks you anything. One, what is this week really about? Two, what are the two or three things that, if they are done by Friday, will make this a good week? And third, what am I carrying from last week that I need to put down before I can help anyone today? A chief operating officer I worked with, Alicia, she called this her 5-minute Monday coffee book note. No coffee will not help. So get coffee, get notebook. No screens. Three questions, 6 months in, she told me those 5 minutes had reshaped her whole week. Same work, but now did it on purpose instead of just reacting to it. So your move for B, put a real starting line on your week. 5 to 10 minutes before the inbox, before the first meeting, before the first ask, three questions, and then begin. Breathe and begin. Because a week that never started can never be steered. Now, the second, assess your biases. This second move is the one leaders skip the most, because when we feel out of balance, we love to blame the outside. Too many demands, too many fires, not enough time. And sometimes this is true. Often it is only half true. The other half is inside you. It is a quiet belief about what counts as real work that is tipping your whole world. Let me give you another real example. A leader I coached, Matthews, was working on 8 hour week, 80 hour, right? 80. He was sure his only choice were quit, higher help, or burnout. So we sat down. and walked through his calendar together. About 40 of those hours were work only he could do. The other 40 things he refused to let go of. Meetings he could have skipped, reviews he could have handed off, decisions he was rubber stamping just so he could stay close to the work. Now, his problem was not lack of time. His problem was a bias. A bias, he believed that if he did not touch a decision himself, it would go wrong. Now, that belief, my friends, that belief, not his calendar, was crushing his week. So, every week or two, ask yourself one honest question: what am I treating as important that is actually optional? And what am I treating as optional that is actually critical? See, the honest answer almost always fixes your week before you change a single thing on the outside. So you move for A. Once every 2 weeks, do this audit in writing, 2 columns. Say yes, too big, and one says no, too small. Move three things between them. Assess the bias. Because the weight you carry is not all on your back, some of it in your head. Then the third one, link to your values. Now, this one turns balance from time management into real leadership. Pay attention here, okay? Your week can be tidy, calm, bias free, and still be aimed at wrong things. Balance without values, it just neat drifting. The cyclist is upright, sure, but they are riding away from where they wanted to go. So ask the question almost no leader asks out loud. Of all the things on my calendar this week, which ones match what I say I care about most? Now, when you answer honestly, it can sting because most leaders find their calendar has slowly drifted away from their values, not from not from some one big betrayal, but from a thousand small yeses that each looked fine on their way on. Now, a leader I worked with, Imani, did this after a brutal quarter. For 3 years, she had said that growing her people was the most important part of her job. So we looked at her calendar and did the audit. She had not had a real one on one with two of them in 11 weeks. Not because she stopped caring, not at all, because the loud stuff quietly ate the one thing she said was the work. So she rebuilt her month around her values. Three things made the cut and became unmovable. The one on ones came back. The fires kept coming, sure, but the fire stopped eating the real work. So you move for L, take your 3 or 4 leadership values, lay them over next week or 2 weeks calendar. Where is the time? If a value cannot find time on your calendar, then in real life, it is not a value yet. It is just a wish. So link to your values, make your calendar tell the truth about what you actually lead by. Now, the fourth one is acting mindfully. So take the inside work and make it visible. Because here's the catch: you can be calm, you can be bias free, and value aligned inside your own head, but still create chaos in the room, right? So the inside work is needed, it is not enough. The act has to land where people can see it. The act To act mindfully is to take the fixes you made on the inside, the starting line, the bias audit, the values, and then turn them, turn them into moves your team can actually walk. How you open the meeting, how you take bad news, how you give a fast yes or a thoughtful no, how you push back when someone drops the 11th top priority of the quarter on the table. So a leader I coached recently did beautiful inside work, clean Monday routine, honest bias audit, calendar built around values, and his team still said, "Is there feedback?" That he was reactive and hard to read. Why? Because none of his inside work showed up on the outside. He had not changed how he opened the meetings. He had not changed how he answered with a director brought him problem. The inside had moved, the outside had not caught up. So we picked three small outside moves. One, open every leadership meeting by saying in one sentence what he wanted the team to focus on that week. When his directors brought problem, ask one question first. What do you want from me here? A decision, a sounding board, or a thinking partner? And when someone pitched a new priority, ask which of the three top things this quarter does this breaks? And 6 weeks later, the feedback read completely different. Same leader, same inside work, different outside move. So your move for A, pick two or three outside acts that show your inside balance. Things your team can feel. Do them on purpose this week. Act mindfully because your team cannot read your mind. They can only read your moves. And then the fifth one is to nurture the outcome. Now, this fifth one is the one that keeps the whole thing aligned. Without it, everything you just built falls apart the first hard week. So here is the pattern I see over and over again. A leader does all four moves for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then a big fire hits. The practice bakes. And they go right back to the dreamy fantasy balance they were trying to scale. Then they say, see, the practice doesn't work. But the practice was not the problem. The lack of a system around the practice was the problem. So, nurturing the outcome means building a small check into your week, a check that keeps the practice alive even when the week goes sideways. Maybe it is a standing 20-minute Friday review. And you ask, did I do my 5-minute Monday? Did my values get time? Did my outside acts happen? Where did I drift? Maybe it is a monthly call with a peer or a coach where you can say out loud what worked and what did not. Maybe it is a check every few months where if the practice has stopped fitting the season, you adjust instead of dumping it. Uh, Nadia, another leader I worked with, started 15-minute walk every Friday afternoon. Just her, a notebook and three questions about the week. The walk became sacred. 2 years in, she told me that walk had carried her through two reorganizations, a divorce, and a hard fundraise. Not walking itself, the fact that every single week the walk asked her honestly how things are going and would not let her drift out of balance without noticing. So, your move for N, put one check on your week that will notice for you when the practice slips. A Friday review, a peer call, a walk with a notebook, the shape does not matter. The fact that it happens on a schedule is everything. So, nurture the outcome because balance, like every leadership skill, dies in private and survives in structure. So, before we put to work, let me hand you the whole thing in one breath because if you can't say it simply, you won't use it on a hard day. So, here's a clean and tight. B is breath and begin. Put a starting line on the week because a week does not have a starting line, does not exist, and the work will run you. A is assess your bias. Some of the weight is not on your back, it is on your head. So it is an internal work to find out what biases you are carrying. L is link your values. If you have a value and the value cannot find time on the calendar, it is just a wish, not a value. So the values that you have, three, four, five, whatever it is, put that in writing and put that on your calendar so it gets time on your calendar. A, act mindfully. Now, your team cannot read your mind, but I promise your team, just like your kids, they read your moves, every move that you do. When you are in pressure, when you are not in balance, when you react to the fire coming to you. And those moves matter. So move on purpose. N is nurture the outcome. Build one check that catches you when you drift, because balance dies in private. And wrapped around all five, the C and E, collaboration and ethically. So you're not balancing alone, you're balancing with your team and not at their expense or at your expense. That is the whole framework. Five moves, two guardrails, one bike, staying upright on a rough road. Now, let's put it to work on your actual week. So, pause the podcast if you need to. Bring next week to mind, the real one, the real meetings, the real fires, the real demands. Now, run it through the five moves with me. Breathe and begin. What is the 5 to 10 minute starting line you will put on Monday morning? Where on the calendar does it live? Put it there right now if you can. Now, assess the bias. Of the things filling next week, which one is too big? Which one is too small? Move at least one thing between the columns. Link your values. What are the two or three values you most want next week to reflect? Can you find them on calendar? If you cannot find them on your calendar, put them there. Even if something else has to move, put your values back on the calendar and then act mindfully. What is one outside act, one thing that your team will see that shows your inside balance? Because one one thing is doing the internal work, but if you cannot externalize it, it does not exist. So the question is, when in the week will it happen? And then nurture the outcome. When on Friday will you take 15 minutes to ask honestly how the week went? Where exactly does it live on the calendar? 15 minutes of planning, 1 week. The whole framework, use it for real. Now, there are three trapdoors. With everything that I share, I also share what to look for. Trap one, treating balance as a finish line. This is very common. Balance is not a place you arrive, it is a continuous stream of small fixes. If you're waiting for the calm week so you can finally start, you will wait forever. See, the week never calms down, you start inside. So you have to start inside the week you have. Second trap, handing your balance to an app. No tool with balance, you're weak for you. Tools help. The work is still yours. If you find yourself shopping for a shiny new productivity system every 6 months, be honest. You are probably dodging the harder question of what you actually lead by. And the third trap, mixing up your balance with your teams. Now, this is the big one. A leader who finds their own calm while their team tips over every week has not found the balance. Not in any way that matters, at least, right? That is what the C and E are for, collaboration ethically, right? So if your balance costs your team theirs, you have not finished the work. You have just moved the weight onto other people's back. So here is your challenge before next week. Three things, all small. One, tomorrow morning, before anything else, 5 minutes with a notebook. Ask the three Monday questions. What is this week about? What two or three things would make it good? What am I carrying in that I need to put down? By Wednesday, look at your calendar and find the value with no home on it. Give it a slot. Move something else around. And then Friday afternoon, 50 minutes. Walk, sit, journal, whatever fits. Ask honestly, where did I stay in balance this week? Where did I tip? What do I want to do differently next week? Now, do those three things in 1 week, and you will have done more balanced work than 90% of the leaders I meet have done all year. Not because it is hard, because it is quiet. And the quiet practices are the first one to get skipped when the week gets loud. So here is where I want to leave you. The leaders who hold steady year after year under the kind of pressure that breaks most people did not find some calm, perfect life the rest of us are missing. They built five small habits into the way they run the week. So they breathe and began. They put a starting line on the week. They assigned their bias about what really mattered. They linked their calendar to the values they come to lead by. They acted mindfully. So the team could see it and they nurtured the outcome. They built the check that kept it all alive when the week went sideways. So balance is not the photo on magazine cover. It is the bike staying upright on a rough road through five small, ongoing, almost invisible fixes. Done together, done with honor, with your team riding right behind you. Five moves 1 week, one small starting line tomorrow morning. The bike will stay up. I promise you that. I'll see you next week. This is Seng on the Transformation Network, and you're listening to the Mindful Leadership Transforming Lives podcast. Thank you. Lead mindfully.
Thank you for watching Mindful Leadership Transforming Lives. With me, your host, Singh. We are honored to have you join us on this journey to explore the transformative power of mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and authentic leadership. Tune in every week on transformationtalkradio.com at noon Pacific on Tuesdays, where we will continue to explore how mindful leadership can create a ripple effect of positive changes in your life and lives of those you influence. This show is dedicated to helping you lead with purpose, presence, and passion. Whether you're navigating the complexities of business, building stronger connection with your team, or striving to make a meaningful impact in the world around you. To learn more about the show, access additional resources, or dive deeper, visit singpowerupcoach.com. Remember, leadership isn't just about what you do. It's about who you are. Let's continue to transform lives together, one mindful moment at a time. See you next week.